Well, when the 1986 Act was passed, that gave the pharmaceutical industry liability protection, so that if you or your children had a reaction and a serious injury, then you could file through what we call the vaccine court, which was the federal court of claims for a compensation for taking one for the team. It's kind of how that was.
That VAERS?
Well, VAERS is part of it. VAERS is part of the Injury Compensation Act. VAERS is a way of tracking what the injuries were. The Injury Compensation Act would just say, if you could, you got a shot and you had a reaction, you could fill out a form and file it with the with the Federal Court of Claims, which we call Vaccine Court. Well, remember at that point in time, there were only 3 vaccines. There was MMR, DPT, and polio. And I really think that during that time when, Congress was, they had a gun to their head, the pharmaceutical industry again said to Congress, vaccination is part of our public health program. We're getting sued because DPT is causing so many brain damages. We can't afford all these lawsuits, and you've got to protect us or we quit. We're just not going to make vaccines at all anymore.
And we're helping people. This is a public health necessity.
Yes, it will be a disaster without this public health thing. So they were, again and again, pushed up against the wall by the pharmaceutical industry. And I honestly think that if you look backwards in time, if you think about the senators and the congressmen who were in that Congress in 1986, they just thought about these 3 vaccines and smallpox. We stopped giving the smallpox vaccine in 1972, so it really didn't apply.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we can protect them for these vaccines, not understanding or having any foresight into seeing
what was to come,
and that it was like Fanny bar the door. Because as soon as that was passed in 1986, in 1991 they passed Hep B at birth and the Hib vaccine. And then the rollout just kept happening from there. The chickenpox vaccine, Prevnar, Gardasil, Hepatitis A, it just goes on
everything
and on
under the sun now.
The 4 different kinds of meningitis vaccines. It just goes on and on and on. And I just saw a chart yesterday that shows the increasing incidence of autism that started from 1986, which was kind of when I got into this, was in September of 2000. When I remember talking about that, the incidence of autism at that point in time in 2000 was about 1 in 150 children, which was a travesty at that point. And now it's 1 in 30. And you just see this chart, and it shows every time that a new vaccine was introduced along this chart, how things kept going up. And yet people say, we don't know what's causing autism. We have to look for genetics. We have to look for environmental things. We have to look at, and nobody is willing, except me and a handful of other people, to talk about the elephant that's in the room. When you are injecting foreign matter into children at a very tender age, when they're still going through rapid cardiovascular, neurological, lung, everything development, their bones are growing, everything is happening rapidly. It's like throwing hands full of salt into your gas tank and expecting things to work well. And so that's why probably about a year ago now, it was sometime this year, so 6-7 months ago, I decided I was going to stop talking about the pediatric vaccination program and call it what it is.
Which is what?
It's the pediatric poisoning program.
Yeah.
That they poison kids systematically, that at 2, 4, 6 months and 1 year, they'll get 28 injections by the time they're 1 year of age.
Okay, I feel sick now because I did this to my children.
And they'll have, by 2 years of age, when the kidneys become fully functional to get rid of the aluminum, that happens at 2 years of age, they'll have 4,700 micrograms of aluminum that will be injected into them that can't get out of their body. So it's stored in their brain and their bones and their liver and their kidney. And so we are poisoning children. It's the pediatric poisoning program. And for adults, it's the adult assault program. We now know that the flu shot doesn't work. The huge study that just came out from the Cleveland Clinic that said that there was over 2 million in this study, I believe. And they said that if you got a flu shot, you were more likely to get the flu.
Yeah,
there was another study that came out just a couple of weeks ago that if you got the pneumonia shot, you were more likely to get pneumonia and die. And so all of these things are now, the truth is like all the cracks in the wall are starting to come out that we've been begging to see for 25 years.